Yo, yo, yo. Making this video log today for just kind of my discretion on, what I think con artists are. Like con artists do, what would con artists, are all about. I think con artists are like, a different type of people that, they really play into the idea of, like theft or like stealing or just kind of going around and just kind of making a mess of everything. Like they do it all the time. Like no matter what. Like when, in my opinion, when you see a con artist, like or like something about something doesn't seem right. Like it's there's some con artist doing it. It's like disorganized. Like it changes like all weird or like they make changes that aren't organized. Like it's just management. It's just business management. Like you have to like say like your food is changed, like they're changing the label or something like that. Like it's a good business technique to tell your customer like we're changing the label, or like if it's the ingredient, like they do some focus group, they release those focus groups, information about it, and kind of let people know it's basic business. You'd learn it in almost any business class. So there's that, or like the idea of like I'm just going to put it out there, like mental health is another thing. College kids con their way into jobs all the time. They don't know what they're doing, and they go about it like they're con artists. Like like everything about what they do is right or wrong. I mean, you could be wrong about some things, you can be right about some things. Like smoking pot every day, driving your car, drinking alcohol and pot together. All those things are bad for your health. But like the point is like if you have the attitude to change, why isn't that support your actions? It's a kind of like an existential viewpoint. It builds on a lot of categorization in your mind, like what you need, what you want. The idea of like mental health is usually lost on people. When you think about like mental health, it's a like a big canvas or like a paper you gotta like fill out with these words of like what you want to do with your activities you want to put into cycle when you start this mental health journey. But the idea that like you wouldn't participate in like your own like journey of like getting help or like getting healthy, it doesn't work that way. You can't make somebody do something you can't do. And that goes back to like the con artist part. Like college kids will say like, well, you're here, I mean, you have to do what I say. You have to do what I say. So it's not like the attention part. It's that they don't get the English language. Like you can't provide like an example and say you have to go by this example in the English language. You have to create a canvas basically and say like, well, like these are the guidelines of what I need you to do. I need you to fit the guidelines. I need you to do something about the guidelines. I mean, any answer really would suffice, right? Anything that is like kind of drearish, like kind of it doesn't fit the 9-0, like the outline. It wouldn't make sense. Like something like too sexual or not ethical in a way. And you learn that in business ethics. You learn it in school, kindergarten. That's just what kindergarten is all about. It's like an American culture thing. But if you think like you can control somebody, your mindset, or say like it's my business rather than your business, then you are in fact like conning someone. You're conning somebody out of their time, their money, their their education. You could learn a lot from a social worker or someone else like a policeman. Like you could learn a lot, but given the chance, like you'll probably only meet a mental health worker when you're trying to canvass the outside organization, outside of like volunteering or work. Some people will work, but they won't rely on that system. And yeah, those people are more wealthy, but you got to think about it. There are a lot of con artists. They're college age. They smoke weed. They'll drive high. They'll sell drugs. All sorts of things. But con artists. Is an illusionary word when it comes to like professional work. I don't think so. I think one person's like acknowledgement over an issue is just suffice versus a professional's. I think that should be equivalent in the courts. But when you think about con artists, and the only thing I bring it up is it almost seems like an exaggeration. Because once I put it in video, it will just look kind of like, well, what is he talking about, con artist, or like, well, why is he going on about con artists and mental health and things like that? But just let me explain. Like you could say like you're somebody like you're like a programmer, right? And you make a program, like you don't go back on and you say like, well, this is for categorizing and collecting data, or this is for kind of putting my system out there. But you might not like have control over that program for a very long time, and you might go back to it and say like, well, this program was a success, even though it was open source or whatever. It was a success. It made billions of dollars. You can't just come back and say like a con artist would. You can't come back and say like, this isn't what it was meant to be. This is what it was meant to be. It was supposed to be my business and my business plans and my business priority, and it was controlled by solely me. You can't just say that. You got to say like, well, like they acknowledge the idea of like business analytics, and I enjoyed the idea of game theory. So that's what we were doing at the time. That's what it was all about. It was about not like slide of rule, kind of like man on man, like software versus software. It was about open source freeware. That was meant for connecting anything that you can do. Maybe money related, maybe something else, maybe cryptography related. But you got to say like I wasn't the con man here. Like I did send some emails. I sent some emails to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Like, is this application run fine? I'm no con artist. I even asked a professional professor. But what would a con artist say in that situation? Like they would say like, no, this was my business. There is no emails. You know how easy it is to delete emails? Do you know how easy it is to delete IP addresses? It's pretty damn easy after it gets a little while. They could stay in some computer somewhere, and that's true. Right? They could, be there, but after a certain point, there's statutory laws that say like you can't use this information, or the idea that it doesn't become like evident anymore because it's without without collected data at the time where it wasn't relevant. But you got to think it's that imaginary word, versus intelligence, or, kind of what it means to con, or like to be a thief, it's a big deal. It's a pretty big deal. Like I wouldn't say it otherwise if there wasn't like a con artist issue, in where I live, so this is my kind of daily blog, just kind of like speaking my mind, but if you're not getting this video, don't make a fool of yourself. If you're getting this video, don't exaggerate yourself. But like if you're like right in the middle, like maybe acknowledge the idea that like con artists are, it's like kind of like project management. It's kind of like you have to go over the drear of doing duplicates of project management, like assessments or kind of risk analysis, but you got to think about it like, the categorization is, meant for something newer and better. It's like technology that's driving you. That's the way I think. Like you have to categorize, and that's probably the biggest thing you'll have to do, even though it looks unpretty. I mean, that's the basic necessities, and it's just a number game, list, database, all that. But with con artist, project manager, that doesn't make sense. That's what like programming is. Really, when you get down to it, it doesn't make sense. So, you could say programming is not a technical skill, but then you would be hallucinating. That's what I would call borderline insane. Like you don't go and program without a textbook. You don't just make things up And those textbooks are special to that subject. So you're not going to just program out of nowhere. You're going to get training and, do that. But the thing is, you can't do what a lot of programmers do, which is close down a program and then collect open source data. That's illegal. Like JavaScript, for example, is something similar to that. It's kind of like built on like teaching kind of software, and then it went into like kind of sourcing its code to something else, but it was specifically for like child care, But yeah, like there's examples of it. But I guess with ChatGPT, it's that this idea of this non-technical skill is going away. Like people are stop imagining things. They're stopping to believe con artists less. Evident in so many things. Like Bitcoin is one of those things. It pumped to almost $50,000. Or was it more? 60,000? I don't know. But does it take a team of people to imagine something for you? Does it take some employee from the CIA to say, well, I created Bitcoin, or, I'm from the NSA, I created Bitcoin. Or, I was just a student, or I know somebody, I don't know how exaggerated, like you could be a con artist and say like, well, I don't really know. I tried to acknowledge the idea that like, I could talk to someone, some professional platform, Facebook maybe back in the day, or, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a perfect example. Not everybody's on LinkedIn. Yeah, not everybody you want to look up is on LinkedIn. The people who you need to talk to on LinkedIn are email only. So you have to have their email to connect with them. So it's kind of open border. And even if you wanted to, would they know what projects you worked on, what con artists you met? No, it's always about the con artists. It's always about, I can't acknowledge this, but, when con artists have gone too far, and you've gotten these jobs before, like, which are like maybe programming, which is a soft skill, basically, very soft. Or something else, reading, like you could be a teacher. Or maybe it's something like very hard, like the military. You can't come down to, just you're the sole person to remember it. And you can't pick the categorization. Like you can't just say like, these are the people, and then this is my memory, and this is what I believe. You can't do it that way. You have to like kind of show your soft and hard skills. Your hard skill is your soft skill in that category. It's kind of like memory isn't a soft skill, but it's kind of like what people pick up on and use that skill that you're creating for yourself, and they use it against you. So, it's a con artist thing. Like, project management goes together with, the soft and hard skills, or business analytics, or just analytics in general. Those are like just important. Those are important business moves. They're the forces, basically. But, like, if you're trying to act like it's a point of like figure to, say like who a con artist is, or what a con artist now, or like you need to prove there's no con artist right now, or you're not a con artist, it doesn't work that way either. Like people who said like that there are points and disciplines that say like you can be a con artist or you can't be a con artist. Like a psychology professor saying like, well, like I know you might have studied with someone or wrote the research paper and said like, well, you're going to prove it. It doesn't work that way. You don't just get to prove it or disprove it on the point. It's not mine to say like how you would prove it, but it does take some technical, emotional skills and learning, and dedication, which is important. But the other point is you have to use your own language. So that's another point. So it can go both ways. If you don't have the IP addresses and say everything is like individualized, which nothing is, that's a business rule. You have to see it a different way. You have to, kind of be skillful in your resolutions. Like you could build in a technical skill here, right? But you won't fit the puzzle piece together. It's an important skill to learn your categorization in project management. It's an important skill. And con artists, con their way into anything. They say anything to get anything. Dollar a day. But yeah, just my idea of con artists. I went on the ramble. But you don't need to apologize at the end of the day. Somebody who's saying like you're wrong and like you're in the wrong because so many reasons, or like you're wrong because of I felt this way, or went this way, and I did so many things. It doesn't work that way either. Like you don't get to pick and choose. You got to do the right thing. Like if you are the right type of person, you'll believe anything basically, and you'll spend more time with people who want to do good. You know, the more you spend your time doing bad, or like kind of conning your way through things, or committing like infractions, misdemeanors, felonies, you're bound to spend more time with those people. But it would take some resilience to get yourself out of that situation. So that's another point of doing good. You have to help those people in the correct order. And that's like correcting you're illustrating the point of correcting your clockwork, basically your project management. When it comes down to those portions or sections, you have to layer it one by one. You have to go down one by one and go and check off what you've done. That's the big point. You're missing. Everyone's missing. It's the con artists that are prohibiting you from doing those things. So